Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today. It's an honor to share a stage with my father. It's an honor that my mother is sitting here. And it's an honor to be mere minutes walk away from where 30 and a bit years ago, 250,000 people came together to speak up for Soviet Jewry. And while I wasn't there, and since I wasn't born, I didn't share the struggle, I did hear a lot about it. In fact, when I was 8 years old and we met a new neighbor for the first time, I remember she looked at you and sighed, and she said, "Oh, Natan, life was so good when you were in prison." She said, "You know, we came together, we stood hand in hand, we marched in all these rallies, we had a cause. Those were the good days." Now, as I became an adult and I became involved in, public conversations, and I saw firsthand the vitriol and the anger that many issues raise amongst us, I started feeling some of that wistfulness that I heard in my neighbor's voice then. I started thinking, yeah, life was good when you were in prison. But at the same time, I started resenting the comparison between your generation and mine. I felt that it was unfair to hold us to the standard of your unity. I mean, yes, you united, but you had a very clear enemy to unite against, the Soviet Union. And you had a very clear cause to unite around, getting the Jews out of there. Whereas for us, we have many enemies and many causes, and our causes sometimes clash. How can we be expected to be united like you? So, I want to put this question to you. In what ways do you think that your struggle is a relevant model for my generation today?
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, my daughter. But I don't think that our struggle was that type of unity that our neighbor, you, or people are dreaming about. In fact, of course, it was one great victory, and the responsibility for the victory, credit for this victory, take all the Jews in the world. Israel, American Jewry, and we, Jewish activists in Moscow. But on day-to-day basis, from inside, it was permanent competition of different Jewish organizations, of student struggle for Soviet Jewry, and Conference for Soviet Jewry, and Coalition for Soviet Jewry, and Union of Council for Soviet Jewry, and many other organizations who suspected one another, who didn't trust one another, who accused one another in betraying our mutual cause. So it was very, very Jewish type of unity. I'll give you one example. We had to send, of course, some of our very important documents. Let's say 100 Jewish refugees sent letter of support to Senator Jackson. We want Jewish organizations will have this document. So we would send it twice through tourists who take risk for smuggling these documents twice in order to deliver them to two different Soviet Jewry organizations who are on the same street in New York, in Manhattan, because they will never share the information. Or imagine we, Soviet Jewish activists in Moscow, who are divided between these big debates whether we are fighting for human rights, or we are fighting only for Zionism, or we are fighting for Jewish education. And then some very important news I get from American Embassy, that in 2 weeks there come senators, and they want, before they meet with Brezhnev for the first time, to come and meet us, and then take our documents to Brezhnev. So it will be such an upgrade of our status. And I have to organize it, making sure that KGB will not know until the last moment. And then in the last moment, when everything is ready, and Senator Jackson, Senator Javits, and the others are waiting, some refuse and say, no, we will not go to one room with this group. We want our separate meeting. My God. Thanks God, Senator Javits had a sense of humor. He said, you know, we don't have time for 2 meetings, but I have 2 rooms in my suite and hotel. Everybody can choose its room. So then it was 1 meeting, and then it was 1 struggle. But our unity was not different from your disunity about which you're talking.
You know, it's funny. What you're saying does strike a chord for me, because even though I didn't experience a struggle, like I said, I did experience something almost as intense, Shabbat meals at our table, where we disagreed about everything. We disagreed about who created whom. Did God create man, or did man create God? We disagreed about politics. And in the background, my beloved Baba Ida, your mother, sat and used all the same energy and fire with which she stood up to the Soviet authority for years and years to stand up to you and say, why are you sending the girls to these religious schools? Why are they wearing these terribly long skirts? I'll never meet husbands this way. And I remember that the amazing thing, looking back as an adult, was not that we loved each other. That goes without saying. It was that we never tried to harmonize by removing topics off the table. We argued as we loved, and we loved as we argued, and we were united in the same conversation, even though we were never united in agreement within it. So I think that's what you're saying, right? That you were united in one conversation?
No, I think I'm saying something bigger than this. it's not enough to have one conversation. But if you look in retrospect on all these organizations who were competing and all these Jewish activists who had very strong opinions, each of them had a place. Each of them played a very important role. In fact, without the students, the activists, the establishment will be silent. But without establishment mobilizing this huge financial and political support, our struggle will not be effective. So, of course, those dissidents in the Soviet Union who believed that our struggle have to be connected to human rights, we are broadening the number of our allies. Those who were insisting that our struggle is about Zionism made sure that the first choice will be Israel. Those who were struggling for Jewish education, they were responsible for this unique network of ulpans in the underground. So everybody had a place, everybody had a role. And I'm sure if in 15 years from now, we'll look on our today's debates, we'll find out that many of our disagreements have a sense. It's good. But you know, I'm talking all the time about what, from our point of view, our struggle means for you. You tell what it means for you, for your generation, how all these Jewish struggles help you to take part in this conversation.
I think the time I really felt that they do was 3 years ago when my son was 5 and the knife intifada was raging in Jerusalem. And I was scared. I was scared to take him to the kindergarten. I was scared to walk to the park. And I knew I had to prepare him. So I sat him down and I said, look, we live in Israel, and there are people who don't want us here. They hate us. They want to scare us away by hurting us. And our country will protect us. Our army will protect us. But something might still happen, and we need to be prepared. So here's your job. My job will be to try and stop the person trying to hurt you. Your job will be to run away. Grab your sister, yell, and run away. And we even practiced. I took a big fluffy teddy bear that was the terrorist, and I fought it, and my son ran away. I have no idea what the neighbors thought was going on. And I thought, oh my God, are you crazy? Why are you telling these terrible things to this little kid? But I also knew that I had to, because the realities of Jewish life will hit him eventually. He needs to be prepared. And that made me think about you. And the morning when you woke me up and you said a terrible thing happened. A Jew killed the prime minister. And the gravity in your voice and in your face stayed with me and shaped me all these years. And I thought of a very different morning when your father woke you up and said a wonderful thing happened. And he closed all the shutters and lowered his voice and said, Stalin died. And Stalin wanted to kill us all. So as a Jew, you must know that and rejoice. But when you go to kindergarten, don't let anyone see it. And I thought of all these generations of Jewish parents preparing their kids for the reality of life at a very young age and passing on our values, our heritage to the next generation. And even though I live in Israel and in prosperity and freedom, the spirit of all these struggles gives me strength to continue doing the same.
Rachel, you know, Rachel, you are on something very important. What you just now said, that look, the last 3-4 generations of our family lived through most exciting times in our history. Tragedy of Holocaust and with the creation of the State of Israel, and then in gathering of exiles, and then making Israel the center of Jewish life, and fighting on left and right against those who want to demonize us. And then in these times, 3 generations of our family say to their 5-year-old children, there is an evil, you have to know to recognize it, and you have to resist it. Maybe that is the thread which connects all our generations.
Maybe. I'm interested to see what my kids, what your kids tell theirs. We'll find out. Thank you.
Thank you.